you. Chris is the Chief of Staff at Jewish Family Services and is going to tell us about what they've been doing during the pandemic and currently. So go ahead.
Great. Thanks, Beryl, and good morning, everyone. I really appreciated hearing all the introductions, and sounds like I got a notification my internet is unstable, so apologize for that. I appreciate knowing that I'm speaking with a group that is so committed and educated on the topic, and I'm happy to give some updates. As you know, JFS is part of the San Diego Rapid Response Network, which is a coalition of human rights and service and faith-based organizations, including attorneys and civic leaders. And we monitor immigration enforcement activities along the border and in San Diego County. And we work together also to operate the San Diego Rapid Response Network's migrant shelter, which I'm sure I can tell some of you have volunteered at. We appreciate that very much. And basically the core value is that together we ensure no one stands alone in our community. Just some background, since 2018, October of 2018, when Homeland Security began releasing hundreds of migrant families onto San Diego streets who otherwise would have been left without they were left without warning and without any process for travel or any services. JFS stood up an emergency respite shelter to provide humanitarian aid for asylum seekers. And since that time, since 2018, we've assisted over 27,000 people, mostly women and children, who would have otherwise been dumped by federal immigration authorities onto the street without food, shelter, or transportation. And then, of course, since that time, two major things have happened. One, a global pandemic, and two, the change in presidential administration. I would say since the pandemic started last year, the biggest transition was a change in our services from using a congregate shelter model, which is just one building that we had, we'll still have on Peck Highway, to transitioning toward a model where we sheltered individuals and families in hotel rooms. And we originally did that with the partnership of the County of San Diego Public Health Department. And then since March 2020, we've transitioned to a similar hoteling system supported by the state of California and also in partnership with UCSD Health. And we continue to provide case management and travel and financial assistance. And asylum seekers and immigrants receive health screenings, including testing for COVID-19. And they quarantine in hotel rooms before traveling on to their final destination elsewhere in the United States. And we work closely with the state of California, County of San Diego, and UCSD Health to follow all public health guidelines. So that's definitely a logistical challenge that has changed over the last year because having non-location, but we're currently in 5 different hotels scattered around San Diego, makes for just an increased workload, and definitely we appreciate the huge turnout in volunteers that we've had because we continue to deliver meals where we would have been able to have shared meals in the shelter. Now we deliver prepackaged meals 3 times a day to hundreds of people in our care in 5 different hotel sites. Right now, our overall census of individuals is hovering near the 700 mark. So on any given night, we're providing services to about 700 individuals. And that leads me to my next update, which was, I said, the major things that have changed is one is COVID, 2 is the change in presidential administration. As I'm sure you all know, since Biden has taken office, there's been a number of very positive changes in immigration policy, but the on-the-ground effects are really quite dramatic. I can tell you that in January, we served 150 individuals. In February, that number is to 400. And this month, March, we served close to 3,000 individuals. So going from 150 in January to 3,000 in March has been very dramatic, I would say. And population we serve is a mixture of people that are finally receiving processing from the MPP program, which was, as you would know, I don't really like the name. It was Migrant Protection Protocols, or the Remain in Mexico policy. Since that has been rolled back, we've served an increased number of asylum seekers as processing has ramped up at the Cedro Port facility. So at the current moment, we're receiving about 50 individuals per day that are part of the MPP program. And then on top of that, we have capacity to serve another 50 to 100 additional folks that are being released by federal authorities, either through humanitarian parole or through the IWI route, which is entry without inspection. And those are folks that have crossed and entered between ports of entry into the United States. So we are continuing, so that the summary is we're continuing to do the work that we've done serving families and individuals. It's changed to adapt to a hotel setting instead of a congregate. We still use and depend heavily on volunteers and support. So if we do appreciate your past volunteering, and if you're interested in doing it again, an easy website, and if I can, I'll throw it into the chat, is jfssd.org/help-now, which I just threw into the chat. That'll take you to a page that's just about our migrant shelter services, including our volunteer opportunities. And the volunteer opportunities range from being a courier of the meals. You can help pack and deliver meals to the hotel sites. We also appreciate volunteers that assist with making travel arrangements for families and individuals onto their final destination. Also, we use volunteers as guides within San Diego Airport to assist families in getting through security and reaching their gate. And there's a number of other opportunities to help as well. And then I would love to have a discussion, but just to close my comments, I did send a video that I'd like to share so that you can not just hear me talk, but you can see what the operations look like, and you can hear directly from a family who's been served.
Kim, you got that?
Thank you so much for that.
Hi, my name is Eitan. I'm a border services advocate here at Jewish Family Service of San Diego. And I have the opportunity to spend most mornings now at the port of entry helping process those folks that have been forced into the Migrant Protection Protocols policy, the policy that forced them to wait in northern Mexico in between their immigration court cases here in the United States. What's so important to remember is that behind every one of these numbers, and we hear these numbers of tens of thousands of people, is a human story, a mother, a father, a family, a child that have had to make this really, really difficult choice to flee their home, the place that they know, that they love, that where they speak the language that they do, the customs that they do, and travel a long, scary, arduous journey. They're fleeing violence, they're fleeing poverty, many times unimagining, harrowing realities. They travel a very, very long way. And then what happened to almost all of them is when they arrive at the US-Mexico border, the first thing that happens is that they're forced to wait on this list. It's a practice that's called metering. And they're essentially given a number, and until that number is called, they have to wait in some very, very dangerous parts of Mexico until their number is sort of called, and then they assert their legal right to international protection in the United States. Every one of their stories is heartbreaking and inspiring and distinct and unique in its own right. And we had the chance today to actually talk with one family that we had the chance to welcome.
Mi nombre es Ana Luisa, soy cubana, viajo con mi hija. Di tu nombre.
Alexandra.
Mi hija tiene 17 años. Salimos de Cuba el 2 de mayo de 2019. Bueno, yo particularmente salí de Cuba Porque primeramente en Cuba no hay libertad de expresión. Soy la madre de un expreso político en Cuba. En mi casa iban a cualquier hora la seguridad del Estado, la policía, eh, entraban sin orden de registro, sin nada. Y bueno, pusieron preso a mi hijo sin causa alguna. Por eso lo convirtieron en preso político. Él era opositor también, además. Estuve en una lista de espera anotada desde el 2 de diciembre de 2019 hasta el 28 de agosto del 2020. Cruzamos por Mexicali el 30 de agosto, el 30 de agosto del año pasado. Y pues ahí nos aplicaron MPP, el proceso MPP, a esperar aquí corte en México. Pero es muy difícil la vida aquí en México. Es muy peligroso.
Allá en México.
Hay que diga allá. Y tuvimos la oportunidad de cruzar hoy con el trabajo que han hecho todos, ¿no? Porque también estuvo trabajando Hewitt Family de aquí de Estados Unidos, de México al NUR, OIM, Haya. Y pues nada, aquí,
Felices.
sin palabras, porque,
No, no lo creemos todavía.
bueno, todavía estamos
Estamos en
procesando
shock.
esto.
Thanks so much for helping us
Okay.
share that video.
Thank you, Chris. So are they still doing the metering?
What they're doing is they're working through the backlog essentially, and I believe the last I heard, it's actually expected to be. It seems insurmountable, but it is expected to be achieved. I think probably sometime in 2021, when the at least for the San Diego region, the number of people that were on the MPP list will be able to be processing.
So people arriving now are not on any list. There's no metering, right?
I'm correct. I'm 99% sure, yes, because we're serving a mix of populations of the MPP folks that were awaiting their processing date into the United States, and it's being accelerated. And then we continue on top of that, maybe even more than half of the folks that we're serving are people that are presenting upon their entry into the United States. So not through MPP, because the program is not being continued.
Okay, so what's happening to people arriving now? Can they wait and try and get in, or once the Border Patrol says they can't cross, they're done?
Well, we're serving a number of people who are crossing and declaring their intent to seek asylum once they cross, and then they are being released to our care.
Okay.
Can you tell us about how long people will stay with you? Will they get an asylum hearing?
Yes, that's an excellent question. It's the stay with us is actually a respite shelter. It's meant to be a very short stay before moving on to their final destination in the United States with family contact or essentially a family contact. The stay typically before pandemic would be as short as 2 days. And now if folks medical screening and have a negative COVID test, we're typically traveling people out currently with guidance from the state and the county between 4 and 7 days after arrival into the hotels. That window is becoming shorter as COVID positivity rates just generally in the state are decreasing, and also testing, the confidence in testing is improving. And an interesting fact is actually, even though San Diego is such a popular port of entry, around the upper, I would say 97 or 98% of people that we serve end up leaving San Diego County and traveling to another destination elsewhere in the United States. And that's a key part of our service. It's either through bus, train, or air travel, supported by our partners. There's a great partner that works with donated airline miles, and we also use private philanthropy dollars to support that travel.
Couple of questions for you. In terms of their asylum hearings, are they, no matter where they go, will they always come back here for them? And that's one.
Oh, right.
Okay. And
Thanks. And that was part of Jane's question too that I left out. Yes, we, in addition to just doing the sheltering services, our legal team, because we have immigration lawyers on our staff, actually immediately when they cross, and this is some of the work that takes place at the border itself before they even board the bus to get to the hotel, is we work with them to make sure all of their paperwork is adequate and that they have a hearing date set, and then also work to do change of address forms for them for the hosts that they'll be staying with, to make sure that the trial date is in the same location as the destination that they're going to, so they don't return to San Diego.
oh, have they increased? I mean, it's been so slow because of a lack of, obviously, judges or people to do the hearings. My understanding is that the administration now is trying to get more funding, to have more judges, to have more frequent hearings. Is that correct? Is that moving along?
My understanding is the same as yours, that it's something being attempted, but it's not my area of expertise, because our services really do end for our guests once we travel them on to their final destination. We would love, if we had the capacity, we would stay in touch with them the whole time, but
Yeah.
really our services do end when they board an airplane or a train. Yeah, it's specific to us.
Is there a chance that soon you'll be able to get them vaccinated? Is that going to happen, do you think?
It's definitely been a point of discussion many times with state and county officials. And up to now, it hasn't been an option that's available to us. But who knows, with a change, that situation is evolving really quickly over time. And I think that it is a political and resource decision.
This is going to make a lot of noise.
What happens to people who don't have a viable sponsor?
I haven't had that question before, and I apologize that I don't have our legal team here, but I can find out and let you know. I'll email you.
Okay. Are there other questions? Jane?
Yeah, I have lots. About how long does it take to get an asylum hearing once they've crossed? If they're in San Diego, is that months now? Is it? Or does it happen more quickly?
No, I think so.
It's still very slow, many months,
And
maybe a year.
do you don't take care of any underage people? Is that
Correct. I should have stated that at the outset. Right. The JFS is not participating in the services for unaccompanied minor that are taking place at the convention center. That is a project spearheaded by, funded and staffed by the Department of Homeland Security and FEMA, and in partnership with the county and the city. And it's an interesting difference in the way the federal government has responded, because for that population, for the unaccompanied minor population, the federal government is essentially doing the work and taking over, meaning funding it, but also putting personnel and logistical resources behind it, much like a disaster recovery. And for the families and individuals that we serve and other NGOs around or serve, the model has been just funding only, reimbursement only, through FEMA EFSP funds, and forgive me, I don't remember I think it's an emergency food and shelter program. That it's essentially a cost reimbursement basis, and it's not 100%, but it is helpful, and we are grateful to have assistance from the state of California through the state budget as well. But it's a different model. It covers costs, but it doesn't cover personnel or the logistics of running a site. In terms of like our staff do certain logistics, which we're happy to step up, but like managing the hotel inventory, for example, preparing and delivering meals, et cetera, et cetera. So it's an interesting contrast between the two populations. But I would just note that I feel like sometimes in the media, it's easy to think of the unaccompanied minors as the children are going here and then it's all adults in the other place. What I would say is that we serve families and individuals, and approximately half of the individuals in our care are children. And the distinction there is many of the children are infants, and it presents a different set of challenges.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, Glenda, you had a question?
Yes, sorry.
You there? All right, Maggie,
I'm
you have a
sorry.
question? Oh, all right.
Yeah, I'm
Daniel?
sorry. I typed it. I thought it was going to be read. I wanted to know how frequently do you provide meals daily to the people in the hotels, and what is your food resource?
Yes, daily, 3 times a day. And our food resource is our general food resources that we have at JFS as an institution broadly, because we do operate a meal pantry. We also operate home delivered meals for a variety of our other clients, including seniors, et cetera. And we have a full kitchen on site at our facility, but the difference is now they're packaged and frozen depending on the hotel. If hotels have microwaves, we deliver frozen meals so that it's a full hot meal that they can cook in their room. If the hotel room doesn't have that facility, then we have packaged shelf-stable meals.
Thank you.
Okay, Maggie?
Thank you so much, Chris, for your really concise. You covered so much in such a short amount of time, and that was a powerful video. It was the first time I got to see it. So my name is Maggie Baker, and I was one of the very first rapid responders. I was with the rapid response from the beginning, and so I live right close to the border.
Fantastic.
I was one of the people that was on the streets hunting for the individuals who were dumped, and the case where they dropped off half of them in one location and half of the bus loaded in different, and split up a family. We helped, we were in on that ground floor. So I really appreciate the consistent, caring, just creativity and everything that you all have just had to, drop everything you used to do for your job, had this giant burden, and the world is watching you. So I'm in awe of the tenacity and how you keep regenerating, with a little arm, an extra arm here. Anyway, I just want to appreciate everything. And I am going to actually build on what Burl and some of the others were saying, but ask a question about what happens to those who don't have a sponsor, because I've experienced with that, and in particular with a number of Haitian families. So there are about 6 families that entered with that original group in the 2019, October 2019 and on. And so I have continued to stay in touch with them because they are Haitian, and they went to the Christ Ministry as their sponsor, and there's no sponsor. So they ended up in that limbo. And these were families, but the ones that I'm helping accompany at this point are the mothers that were pregnant. So there's some single and there's some with prior kids, and most of them had a child here, and they do not have sponsors. So guess what? you know, a couple friends and I are trying to do this for them. And I'm wondering now with, you know, all that you've learned, I know you're probably aware of other cases like this, but what is happening in the way of articulation with other immigrant services? So they went through the Catholic Charities program because that's where we had Haitian Creole speaking staff members. And but for that ongoing assistance that anyone would need, and navigating even just, you know, they can't make phone calls, you know, they can't do anything because of the language barrier. San Diego's not set up for Haitian Creole. So we have this kind of large Haitian population without sponsors. And, you know, every time I go to deliver or help a family, someone will follow me into my car and ask for help. So in these different apartment complexes where I'm assisting the families, that I've gotten them a pro bono, 2 pro bono attorneys, and one that I did fundraising, you know, and more need attorneys. When you know, I got a $3,000 rental assistance from the county from, you know, but who is helping them navigate beyond that little limited time that Catholic Charities, you know, will provide. Only one of them now has gotten the EAD approval. The card was sent to an old address. And even though I'd put in the assistance for their, I mean, the mailbox thing, so the post office, so the mail would be forwarded, and she received other notices from immigration during this time that were forwarded, they sent her card back. So my family's, one man has had a mental breakdown. He's in medical crisis, and that's why I got on late, because I'm trying to reach this one Haitian Creole speaking therapist. I'm sorry I'm going on so long, but this is like a black hole for me, and I'm drowning in it, and they are too. Fortunately, none of them have contracted COVID, which is a miracle. I provide. You know, I take advantage of everything I can, but it's like it is, you know, it's just out of, it's beyond what, you know, an individual volunteer should be doing. And the reason it all happens is because I accidentally was involved with the birth of one of the babies, and then that kind of sucks you in, because then you're, you know, so here I am, however many, it's been a long time, and what can you tell me about, has anyone thought of this? Is anyone aware of it? Is there any extra attempt to expand and articulate more with existing refugee services and immigrant services that aren't set up for this, really, and they don't really fit into the other systems? They just don't have Haitian Creole services.
So thank you so much for sharing that first, and for all of your work. And obviously it's coming from the heart. I took some notes while you were talking, and I added it to the question that I have in my notes about the folks that come without a sponsor. And then I added some things that I will research for you, and I can communicate that back by email about ongoing support after they leave our care. And I know the answer is going to be something like coordination with other NGOs around the country, but I'll try to get more detailed on that.
And I've spoken over the years many times with Kate and Norma, but they have so much on their plate. So I just don't know who to go to. And I know the people from the San Diego Rapid Response, the first crew and now the newer crew, but everyone's got their hands full. And this, you know, so meanwhile, I get the phone calls in the middle of the night, you know. Yeah. They didn't, you know, I mean, I could go on and on about all the crazy things that happen. If you don't have anyone who knows how to drive or speak English, and you're in an emergency. I've handled just all kinds of emergencies.
Okay, Susie, did you have a question?
I wanted to go back and just clarify with Chris, if I understand this correctly. My understanding is that when they first arrive at the border and they turn themselves to an agent and they ask for asylum, then they get some kind of quick review with that Border Patrol agent. And then if there's a credible fear, then they get passed to Jewish Family Services. Is that correct? Is that the point at which you get
that? High-level description is also the same understanding I have, that there's discretion from agents to do an initial interview, but I'm not an immigration attorney, so I apologize for that. That's my
understanding from interpreting with them and hearing stories on many occasions, and that when the agent determines that they don't have a credible fear, they're sent right back right then. They're sent back across the border, no, rejected. But if there's some kind of credible fear, which it seems like, anyway, when there's a credible fear, then they are sent to Jewish Family Services or other groups that are giving some lawyer
Correct. That's the same understanding I have. And
But
I do
Susie-
want to just acknowledge, thank you for bearing with me being the representative, because ideally I would bring one of our immigration attorneys and the actual on the ground people with me, but they're overloaded. So
Yeah.
that's why it's just me. And I hope you're okay with me being a go-between, and I can get you some information after.
That's fine, yeah. But Susie, the people that get turned back, can they come again after things quiet down?
I've seen cases and stories where they come back,
Mhm.
but my impression is that some are coming who don't really have a credible fear. There are other circumstances of poverty that are driving them, but the vast majority seems to be credible fear.
Okay.
That's just layman's observation.
Jim, you have a question?
Yes, I put it into the chat. Chris, how long do you foresee JFS needing volunteers? It sounds like this is going to go on for a while with the metering and the people going through MPP still. And
I would
like to return, and I'm out of state, and I was told that you're not accepting out of state volunteers at the moment, even if we're vaccinated.
So you have already inquired about the out of state? Is that what I heard? It broke up.
Yes, a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. It could change. I'm just wondering if you had any insight on that.
As of now, I think it's trying to align with the guidance we're getting from the state and county about trying to hold to the advisories for not traveling out of your home county or especially state. That could change, especially since now we see that California is going to be reopened, whatever that means, on June 15th. But for volunteers in our region, the need is indefinite at this point, at least for several months more.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Jane, yeah.
Sorry, I have a lot of questions. What do you see happening with Title 42, which is you can't cross because of COVID? My understanding is that most of the people who come to the border get sent back because of that at this point. But I was just wondering what you hear about it. Is it likely to change, that law, as the pandemic subsides?
Yeah. Well, I don't have any inside information about what the president is thinking, but I can tell you that, and I'm sure you all see it too, it's clearly the top legislative priority of most immigrants' rights groups and coalitions. I get emails about it at least daily, sign-on letters, petitions, hearings, days of action. Title 42 is definitely, I would say, top of the list. Particularly because MPP rollback was a top priority for a lot of people and time sensitive, and it was a commitment from Biden when he was running, do that within his first 100 days. I'd say Title 42 is probably the top on most advocacy organizations lists. And there are complications with capacity and public health as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more questions? Jane, you're done? Okay, Chris, this has been very informative. We appreciate your coming and taking a little time out of your day. You're welcome
Of course.
to stay.
Thank you
if
for the
you'd like.
invite, and I'll Beryl, I'll communicate with you by email if that's okay.
Okay.
That's my contact.
All